3 true scary Valentine's Day mysteries that will haunt you. Dim the lights, grab your beverage of choice, and get ready for some chills. Valentine's Day, it's all about love, right? Chocolate hearts, awkward dinner dates, enough roses to make you sneeze. But what about the dark side? Every holiday has one, and Valentine's Day is no exception. So, buckle up, because today, we're diving headfirst into 3 true scary stories, all tied to the most romantic day of the year. Picture it, Chicago, 1929. February's got the windy city in a chokehold. Snow piled high, wind howling like a banshee. It's the Prohibition era, a time when gangsters ruled the streets, and booze flowed like, well, not water, that's for sure. Now imagine a nondescript garage on North Clark Street, a part of town where shadows ran deep and secrets stayed buried. On February 14th, Valentine's Day, this garage became a scene ripped straight out of a nightmare. 7 men, lined up against the wall like sitting ducks, gunned down in cold blood. The weapon of choice? Tommy guns, those nasty pieces of work that spit bullets like nobody's business. The air reeked of gunpowder, the silence broken only by the drip, drip, drip of blood. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre, they called it. A gruesome display of violence that shocked even the most hardened Chicagoans. The newspapers ate it up, the public couldn't get enough, and the cops? Well, they had their work cut out for them. This wasn't just some random act of violence. This was a hit, a carefully orchestrated execution that reeked of organized crime. The prime suspect? None other than Al Capone, the notorious mob boss who ruled Chicago with an iron fist. But here's the thing, they never pinned it on him. Evidence was scarce, witnesses were either too scared or too dead to talk, and Capone, well, he had an alibi that was tighter than a drum. Some say the killers were ghosts, phantoms of the underworld who vanished into thin air after the deed was done. Others whisper that the massacre was a message, a bloody Valentine sent to Capone's rivals, a chilling reminder of who was in charge. But even today, decades later, the true story of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre remains shrouded in mystery. Some say the ghosts of those gunned-down gangsters still linger in that North Clark Street garage. They say that on cold February nights you can still hear the echo of gunfire, the chilling reminder of a Valentine's Day massacre that time can't erase. Imagine you're walking down North Clark Street, the wind's whipping around you, snow stinging your face. You pass by the spot where that garage once stood, and you swear you hear it, a low guttural moan, like someone in pain. You stop, hold your breath, listen, silence. But then, a flicker of movement out of the corner of your eye. You turn, heart pounding, and there, for just a split second, you see him, a shadowy figure, fedora pulled low over his face, Tommy gun clutched in his gloved hand. Then, just as quickly as it appeared, it's gone. Is it just your imagination, playing tricks on you after hearing about the massacre? Or could it be something more? Something restless, something seeking justice, something ghostly? The St. Valentine's Day Massacre remains a chilling reminder that even in the depths of winter, even on a day meant for love, darkness can lurk around every corner. Let's trade the concrete jungle of Chicago for the wide-open spaces of Montana, a place where the sky stretches on forever and the silence can be deafening. It's 1989, Valentine's Day, and a blizzard is bearing down on the small town of Glendive. The wind howls like a hungry wolf, snow falls in thick sheets, and the temperature is dropping fast. It's the kind of night where you want to be curled up inside, fire roaring, maybe a good book to distract you from the howling wilderness outside. But for Patricia Meehan, a young woman with a bright smile and a kind heart, this Valentine's Day would be anything but cozy. Patricia was last seen leaving a local bar, her breath misting in the frigid air as she stepped out into the storm. She was alone, and she seemed agitated, almost scared, according to witnesses. She told the bartender she had to meet someone but wouldn't say who. She rushed out into the blizzard and vanished without a trace. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and still, no sign of Patricia. Search parties combed the area, but the relentless snow had swallowed up any trace of her. The case went cold, another unsolved mystery in a town that had seen its fair share of tragedy. But then, the whispers started. People claimed to have seen Patricia, or at least someone who looked a lot like her, hitchhiking along the desolate highways that snaked through the Montana plains. They said she looked lost, confused, like she was searching for something or someone. One trucker swore he'd given her a ride, dropping her off at a dusty crossroads miles from town. He said she was acting strange, mumbling to herself about shadows and whispers. He said she kept looking over her shoulder like she was being followed. Another sighting placed her at a diner in a town 100 miles away. She was asking about a phone call, a message she was supposed to receive. She seemed desperate, terrified. Then, just as suddenly as she appeared, she was gone again, melting back into the shadows. Was Patricia Meehan still out there, lost and alone in the vast wilderness? Or were these sightings just figments of people's imaginations, fueled by guilt and the chilling emptiness of the Montana landscape? The mystery deepened when searchers discovered something strange in a snow-covered field not far from where Patricia was last seen. Footprints, clearly visible in the freshly fallen snow, leading out into the middle of the field. They were Patricia's size, and they matched the tread of the boot she was wearing the night she disappeared. The footprints led to the center of the field, and then nothing. They just stopped, as if Patricia had simply vanished into thin air. Chapter 3. The Valentine's Day Enigma. The Vanishing of Frederick Valentich. Hold on to your hats, folks, because this next story takes us from the frozen plains of Montana to the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Australian skies. It's 1978, Valentine's Day, and a young pilot named Frederick Valentich is about to embark on a routine training flight that will go down in aviation history. Now, Frederick was a skilled pilot, but he also had this fascination with UFOs, a passion that some might even call an obsession. He'd often tell his friends and family about strange lights he'd seen in the sky, unexplained phenomena that piqued his curiosity and fueled his imagination. On that fateful Valentine's Day evening, Frederick took off from Melbourne in his Cessna 182. His destination, King Island, a small island nestled in the Bass Strait. The weather was clear, visibility was good, and Frederick, well, he sounded excited, almost giddy, according to air traffic control. But about 20 minutes into the flight, something strange happened. Frederick radioed Melbourne air traffic control, his voice tight with tension, to report that he had an unidentified aircraft hovering above him. He described it as a long, metallic object with 4 bright lights, and he said it was moving erratically, almost as if it was toying with him. Air traffic control, understandably skeptical, assured Frederick that there were no other aircraft in the area. They asked him to describe the object again, to confirm its position, its movements. But Frederick's responses became increasingly frantic, his words tumbling over each other as he struggled to maintain his composure. Then, the chilling climax of this aerial encounter. Frederick described a strange metallic sound, like scraping metal, growing louder, closer. He said the object was directly in front of his plane now, and then, silence. Frederick Valentich and his Cessna vanished without a trace. The Australian government launched a massive air and sea search, but despite their best efforts, they found nothing. No wreckage, no debris, no sign of Frederick or his plane. It was as if he'd simply flown into a black hole in the sky. Theories ran rampant. Some speculated that Frederick, fueled by his fascination with UFOs, had staged his own disappearance, flying off to start a new life under a new identity. Others believed that he'd encountered something truly extraordinary that night, something beyond our understanding, something that had plucked him from the sky without a trace. The lack of evidence only fueled the speculation. Whatever happened to Frederick Valentich that Valentine's Day, his story remains one of the most enduring mysteries in aviation history. So, there you have it. 3 chilling tales of love, loss, and the unexplained, all tied to the most romantic day of the year. From the blood-soaked streets of Chicago to the desolate plains of Montana and the endless expanse of the Australian skies, these stories remind us that even on a day meant for love, darkness can lurk in the shadows. And remember, the next time you find yourself alone on Valentine's Day, keep looking over your shoulder. You never know what might be lurking in the shadows.